this episode of Horrific History and Hauntings. I'm Beth.
And I'm Ramey. We're your hosts, here to talk about the stories that the history books ignore.
From horrific epidemics and ghostly hauntings to the catastrophes and tragic events that have sickened humanity.
Indeed. Do we have a thing in history for today?
We do.
Yay.
This is not the one we're going to go into detail about, but I thought it was important to mention that December 14th, the day that we're recording, in 1799, our first president, George Washington, died.
Oh.
But what we're going to talk about is December 14th, 2012, Adam Lanza, a 20-year-old with significant mental health issues, fatally shot 21st graders and 6 school employees before taking his own life at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut.
You hear a lot about that, unfortunately.
Yes. Earlier that day, he had also killed his mother at their home. He gained access to the school by shooting through a window at the locked front entrance, then fatally shot the principal and school psychologist who had come to investigate the noise. He then tragically killed 2 teachers and 15 students in one first grade classroom and 2 teachers and 5 students in the other. The victims were all just 6 and 7 years old, besides the teachers, of course. Despite an extensive investigation, no clear motive was found as to why he did this. But it was later learned that he had attended Sandy Hook as a child and that his mother was the one who legally owned the weapons he used in the attack.
You're supposed to keep them locked up, but...
Yeah. The Sandy Hook shooting was at the time the second deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, and it led to President Obama to call for stricter gun control measures. However, this attempt faced political roadblocks because of the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all we have for today in history, and we are going to start part 3 of the 3 Sisters in Black.
Oh, those lovely women.
They are. In part 2, we went a little deeper into the investigation of O.C. Sneed's strange death after her Aunt Virginia was arrested. The police uncovered the family's history and the suspicious activities, including more financial issues, and as well as their connections to the prominent Southern families.
I don't know why that's really applicable. Fun gossip.
Yeah, I guess during those times it was exactly that. Fun gossip against rich family, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well-respected family, which these days it's not too different if you think about it. It's just,
tabloids.
You imagine back in those days it's more...
Scandalous.
Yeah. More witnesses reported strange encounters with the Sisters in Black, and with the newfound evidence and witness reports, it pointed to foul play and the potential involvement of Virginia's sister, in O.C.'s death. Back into the case. A second autopsy revealed that O.C. was, as I mentioned in the previous episodes, severely malnourished, and it was unlikely she would have been able to drown herself due to her weakened state. The county physician, McKenzie, and his assistant, Dr. Simmons, who performed the second autopsy, concluded that it was a clear case of murder and that O.C. possibly was given poison or opiates before her death. It also suggested that O.C. was too weak to have even entered the bathtub on her own, that she may have been given alcohol to subdue her.
They just drugged her and got her drunk and then threw her in the tub.
Another interesting fact is that a bottle of whiskey had been found in the house when they searched it, and it was linked to, the brand was linked to a particular hotel, and when they went to talk to staff there, a woman matching the description of the Sisters in Black
had
purchased it one night there. And while she was there, the clerk mentioned that she sought the help of a strong man at the hotel where it was purchased.
Oh, that's unusual.
Yes. I probably wouldn't have thought much about it. Maybe she needed wood cut or hauled into her house.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They didn't burn anything.
As O.C.'s funeral was being arranged, the insurance companies refused to provide the funds.
Uh-oh.
They claimed that the body might not actually be O.C. Sneed. This is because an insurance agent living near the House of Mystery, who wasn't even working for the insurance companies that had O.C.'s policies, but he came out and stated he had seen a woman resembling O.C. entering the house at night with a man he believed to be her husband Fletcher, even though Fletcher was said to be dead. Prosecutor Mott ordered the body to be preserved and summoned Dr. William Petit to identify his former patient. Dr. Petit noted the inhumane treatment O.C. had suffered while he was examining the body to identify her. He also mentioned that the surgical stitches had not been removed. They were still in her body.
Well, then that means it was her.
Yes. And then again, he mentioned his repeated attempts to visit and remove the stitches, but was always denied entry into the house. Dr. Petit also had to identify Virginia as the woman in jail. And I'm assuming they were like, I guess, well, if we have to make sure it's O.C., let's be sure that we have the right person in jail.
It could be any one of the sisters, really.
Yeah. because they had trouble telling them apart where they kept dressing the same exact way and covering their faces. He explained that this was in fact the woman who had neglected his medical instructions for O.C. He believed O.C. was murdered possibly with the use of drugs. And as I mentioned, the autopsy supported this theory.
Mm-hmm.
They also found that there was very little water in her stomach. And normally when drowning, people tend to swallow quite a bit of water.
That is weird.
Yeah. Dr. Petit also recalled seeing a bottle of chloroform in the Brooklyn house.
Oh, no.
And when he asked about it, Virginia responded with a smile, suggesting it may have been intended for him.
She's so mean.
Despite the positive identifications, the insurance company still withheld the payment until the case was resolved.
I mean, that's reasonable.
Makes sense.
How are they going to bury the girl, though?
Franklin Fort offered to cover the funeral expenses himself.
Oh.
You remember her lawyer that happened to be in the courtroom and was like, I'll defend you.
The mayor of New York or something like that, son.
Yeah, some political figure.
Yeah.
But Prosecutor Mott intervened, and he stated that his office would provide funds. Mott said he was hoping the funeral would draw out O.C.'s mother, Caroline Martin.
Oh.
The third sister in black, who's still missing.
Rushing to pay for this girl's funeral.
Yeah. It was a big case back then. Following the funeral, Franklin Fort expressed his anger upon learning that his client Virginia's request to see O.C.'s body had been denied. Mary Sneed, the only relative present at the funeral, appeared to be crying, though her veiled face made it difficult to confirm if she was actually crying or just pretending. It's hard to tell.
Their veils are doing their job.
Yeah.
It's left everybody wondering.
In Murfreesboro, Tennessee, sorry, I'm trying to pronounce that correctly. It's just kind of a funny word. Murfreesboro.
Oh, gosh.
Murfreesboro. Like, I know how to pronounce it. I'm just having trouble pronouncing it. So I apologize for that. It's in Tennessee, though.
Okay.
It's where the family had previously lived, and residents described O.C. as a prisoner who was forced into marrying her cousin Fletcher by the sisters.
Oh.
And that they subjected her to peculiar influences.
What?
They didn't specify as to what these were, but these are peculiar women, as we can see already, so maybe that's it.
I guess. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
You think they're summoning the devil to influence her or something.
Well, they do some things that would make people in those times, that I'll get into later, believe something like that. The mayor, upon learning of the large amount of life insurance placed on O.C., believed she didn't stand a chance after that. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the sisters' teaching careers. All of them were in education.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we've mentioned the bad business.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. In 1982, Virginia became president of Sole Female College in Murfreesboro at the request of a Nashville banker who was on the board. Soon after, she brought her parents, her recently widowed sister Mary, and Mary's 3 sons to stay with her. Mary also taught at the college and was well liked there. For 9 years, things seemed to go well, but in 1901, the eldest sister Caroline arrived with her daughter O.C. O.C. quickly became popular and turned out to be an exceptional student. However, the atmosphere at the college shifted as Miss Martin, O.C.'s mother, became the more dominant figure. Her leadership was described as extremely harsh. Caroline eventually took control of all business matters, and the townspeople grew suspicious when the college's bills began going unpaid for months. They began to question why Virginia didn't stand up to her sister and why she simply just obeyed her every single command.
That's a reasonable thing after all your funds are disappearing.
The resemblance between O.C. and her Aunt Virginia became a topic of conversation in the town of Murfreesboro, and it seemed that Virginia and O.C. were kind of close. Virginia seemed to take care of O.C. more than the others, and apparently they looked similar more so than Caroline and O.C. People started to speculate whether O.C. was actually Virginia's daughter who was being raised by Caroline to protect Virginia's reputation as an unmarried woman, and also that perhaps this was something Caroline was holding over Virginia's head, and maybe that was why Virginia was blindly obeying Caroline, even though she was ruining the school financially.
It sounds like something's up, but who knows?
You never learn.
Oh.
Nothing more comes from this. It's just
before
words.
The DNA thing could be done.
I just thought it was interesting to mention.
Yeah. It is unusual, if nothing else.
With the town's gossip, O.C. suddenly stopped attending classes.
Who could blame her?
Her mother claimed she had measles, but the illness seemed to linger for months.
Oh, no. It sounds like Kagome's grandpa and Inuyasha.
The rheumatism.
Yeah. Arthritis and everything else.
Suspicions arose when the townspeople learned about a $7,000 life insurance policy that had been taken out on OC.
Oh, no.
How are they learning about all this?
It's a small town, maybe. I don't know.
Are they just going around bragging? Guess what I did?
Maybe they were taking loans out still.
Maybe.
Or started the first time.
So much for a privacy policy. They suspected she was slowly being poisoned and demanded that she receive medical attention. A physician was summoned, but the sisters denied access to OC's room. Instead, she was brought out on a cot into the hallway for examination.
That's so weird.
It is, but at least they brought her out, I guess, at that time. Strange occurrences started happening at the school. 3 women in black were seen roaming the halls, peering into dorm rooms, and wandering through classrooms at odd hours. Students said that while they were playing in the courtyard, they would catch Miss Martin, Caroline, glaring down at them from a window.
They're all so peculiar. I don't know what to say about them.
Oh, well, you want to hear about peculiar. One night, a student woke up to find all 3 women gathered around the stove in her room.
Why?
While mumbling and chanting.
That sounds like a falsehood. I don't believe that for some reason. I just don't.
Well, it was said that the next morning, the women claimed they had smelled something burning and was there to investigate.
So they did go. Oh, goodness. I would have just not believed that child. I said, there's a limit to how much I'm willing to believe these girls are doing. I believe the poisoning. I believe all that, but doing that, no.
Yeah. It is very strange. I really do wonder if some of this is just where they wore black all the time and seemed a bit strange if people didn't exaggerate.
I don't know.
Others said that the sisters frequently hired carriages late at night only to be seen at the local cemetery.
Of course.
Lingering near a gravestone and talking in hushed tones for hours throughout the night. And some sources said that they would dance as well, but I didn't read that in the book. It just said talking in hushed tones. So.
This sounds a whole lot like the Mayfair Witches novels from Anne Rice. I said at the very beginning, and it sounds more and more like it every moment. Their family had a reputation, too.
The students obviously became more and more uneasy due to the sisters' suspicious behavior and probably lack of sleep, where they're just randomly walking into their rooms as they're sleeping.
And chanting.
So soon, large numbers of students began leaving the school. Yeah. This, along with the financial troubles, caused a committee of trustees to eventually take over and force out the 3 sisters. At this point, however, the damage was beyond repair. They had ruined the school and it had to be sold. I believe it was sold to the town.
Somebody had to end up with it.
Yeah. Despite their being forced out of the school, the sisters remained in town for a little bit. They rented 2 rooms in a house on North Maple Street, where all 3 sisters and OC lived together. In early 1905, they randomly packed everything in the middle of the night and left, while still owing $75 in rent.
How dare they?
During this move, they displayed more strange behavior by shipping their furniture to one location just to ship it again to another.
Maybe they didn't want people to find out where they went to collect their money.
Yeah. That's what I figured. They were spotted at the local railroad depot, but was able to hide their destination because they purchased tickets on the train instead of in the depot.
Oh, smart.
I don't think you can do that now, can you?
I don't ride trains often enough to know.
No.
I don't think you can.
It was discovered eventually that the sisters had parted ways. Mary returned to Georgia, Caroline with OC went to New York, and Virginia appeared in Christiansburg, Virginia, where they had close relatives. One of those relatives was Mrs. Oceana Seaborn Pollock.
That's a name.
Beautiful name.
I like it. It's hard to say.
But I think OC was named after her.
Yeah.
So it may be Oceana, but it looks like Oceana, Seaborn, and I love it. I love that name.
It's a good one.
Yes. She was 93 years old.
Oh, goodness.
It was Martha Eliza Wardlaw's sister, the grandma.
Yeah.
And one of the sisters' close relatives in Christiansburg, which I mentioned before. She had a long career as an educator and was the owner and director of the respected Montgomery College. Most of the women in this family, I said, was in education.
Yeah.
And the men were lawyers, judges, into politics, and preaching. Due to her old age, she placed Virginia in charge of her school.
Okay. Seems like it went well the first time.
Yeah. Initially, just as it was in Murfreesboro, the college thrived under Virginia's leadership. However, this was short-lived, as the remaining sisters began to follow. Mary Sneed arrived first, followed by her 2 sons, Fletcher and Albert, and things seemed to still go well with them there. They didn't cause any trouble. And then Caroline arrived.
Of course.
That was when the school began to see trouble.
Seems to be a Caroline problem.
It's a Caroline problem. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Carolyn or Caroline, but I like saying Caroline. So, upon arriving in town with OC, Caroline immediately assumed control of the school because she thinks she owns everything. Clearly. For some reason, she would move students from one room to another randomly during the classes. She would just switch their classes. Go in, be like, okay, go to this room, then switch them back again. I don't know how they learned anything. And then padlocks began to appear on certain doors. The 3 sisters were again seen roaming the halls and startling the residents with their sudden appearances.
Need to chill out a little bit, girls.
Yeah. Stop bringing attention to yourself.
Not even good kind. It's just weird stuff you do.
Yeah. Fletcher and John were reportedly under the influence of their aunts, Virginia and Caroline. Eventually, they decided to relocate to Linville, Tennessee, where they successfully ran a sawmill. During this time, they married the 2 daughters of a prominent lawyer. And
they both married into the same family?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, I want to say, a double wedding, is what the book said. Their lives seemed great until Auntie Caroline unexpectedly arrived.
Everybody's got an Auntie Caroline in their life, don't they? It's just that one family member that seems to drag down the rest of you.
Wait a minute, what's the family member in our lives?
I don't know yet. We'll figure that out in time. There'll be stories told.
Well, she was demanding that John return to Christiansburg with her, and John's wife was not happy about that and begged him not to go.
Reasonable.
Mm-hmm. This time, he didn't obey Auntie Caroline. He actually resorted to having the police remove her from his house. And then he allegedly confided in neighbors that he wouldn't allow his aunt to wreck his home, which I find to be a peculiar statement to make about one's aunt.
Yeah.
But okay.
I don't know what they meant back then, though.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's
not the same meaning.
Not the same, but okay. Within a few weeks, Caroline returned.
Of course she did.
If the police had to remove me, I'm not returning, but you do you, Caroline.
She seems to do that no matter what.
On this second visit, John gave in and left his wife behind to accompany her back to teach. That's about the time a series of unusual accidents began to happen to him. While traveling with Caroline, he fell off a moving train as it was gaining speed. The incident was explained away as an accident, but a witness who worked on the train claimed to have seen a suicide attempt.
Oh.
Several weeks later, a neighbor living near the school heard Virginia Wardlaw's cries of alarm, and he discovered John Sneed in an open water container. The neighbor rescued John just in time to save his life. Although it appeared that John had attempted suicide, the family claimed he had fallen into the cistern while measuring it for the school.
This man's miserable.
Yes. And he was also getting very depressed.
Yeah.
They said it was because he left his wife. I'm sure that had something to do with it as well, but I'm thinking that the sisters had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Most likely.
A week later, Virginia's cries once again had people running to help. This time, at 8 in the morning, the commotion came from John Sneed's room in the school building, because they would live in the school. 2 teachers were the first to arrive, and they found John flailing about on the floor because his nightclothes were on fire.
What?
His Aunt Virginia was attempting to extinguish the flames, and medical aid was called for.
Yeah, he's on fire.
But sadly, 3 hours later, 28-year-old John Sneed died to his severe burns.
That is so unusual.
Yes.
The thing is, if it was a suicide, who chooses that method? Who flings themselves off trains or into cisterns?
If it was, in fact, suicide, I don't think it was. Who knows, though? He tried drowning. He tried flinging himself off a train. I guess he thought, well, fire's next.
I don't know. This dude is determined if that's the case, but
I don't know.
Who would
That's
stay around
suspicious.
that aunt, or as if that's what she was doing to him, though? Why would he stay there?
They seem to have a hold on people, is the thing. I don't know. Some people said it was like they could hypnotize people or they put spells on people.
It sounds a lot like it.
Yeah, I don't know. One explanation offered for John's death was that his clothes caught on fire while he was attempting to kindle a fire using kerosene oil.
That could do it.
Another version claimed that a lamp had exploded and caught his bedclothes on fire.
It would have caught a lot of things on fire.
Yeah. However, those who responded to the scene found no evidence of an attempt to even build a fire, nor did the lamp show any signs of an explosion. But everyone did agree that the bedclothes were in fact soaked with kerosene oil.
That's not a good sign.
When the townspeople learned about John Sneed's large life insurance policy that had been taken out on him by his aunts, they wondered if the sisters might have been behind his accident. So,
he's seen so many accidents.
Yeah.
And surely he knows. Does he know about the life insurance, I wonder?
I don't know.
Because if he didn't, maybe he just thinks all this was bad accident somehow.
I'd be like, you're bad luck. I got to move. I got to go back to my wife.
Yeah. I never caught on fire, fell off a train, or into a cistern while she was around. It's horrible.
Yeah. Even though people were suspicious, nothing ever came from this.
There was no way to prove it. The man died.
So there's one down. While his brother John was experiencing these series of unfortunate events,
that's the only way to describe it.
Fletcher Sneed also began to encounter difficulties. It's worth noting that Fletcher's troubles began around the same time his Aunt Caroline came to visit him. She insisted that he travel to Louisville to manage some family property. The next time his wife heard from him was through a phone call from Chattanooga, where she was told that he was sick. So, her being a good wife, being concerned for her husband's well-being after his brother's mysterious death, after traveling with their Aunt Caroline, I'm sure had something to do with it as well. She traveled to Chattanooga to check on him, but when she arrived, she was met by Auntie Caroline, who claimed Fletcher was too ill for visitors and insisted that she return home. She also promised that Fletcher would travel home to be with her soon.
Yeah, in a coffin.
When he did not show up, his wife made a second trip, only to discover that Miss Martin had moved him between boarding houses, and she couldn't find him.
What?
So, for good reason, Fletcher's wife felt heartbroken and abandoned and returned home, and then she eventually divorced him. Fletcher Sneed then married his first cousin, O.C. Sneed.
Oh, no.
Well, it turned into O.C. Sneed.
Yeah.
Also, it's no surprise that it was said there was a hefty amount of insurance on his life as well, but I'm not sure about that one. And during this time, the sisters, mainly Caroline, screwed up the Montgomery school's finances that their poor great-aunt had left them in charge of, to the point that it was forced to close. And then they tried to scam people by offering to sell them the school's musical instruments with the false claim that they wanted to reopen the school. And then they just never would deliver the instruments to these people.
And they didn't open the school either, did they?
No.
Huh. What are they doing with it all? Surely it can't go all to nice hotels or anything.
Apparently it's going all into the insurance.
I bet it is. Yeah. The long
Which, if that's the case, why wouldn't you just put back some of that money instead of trying to slowly kill off your relatives?
They found a way around it by just doing that.
By 1908, the sisters' reputation in Christiansburg had deteriorated. Many locals were harassing them to try and recover debts from them, and gradually the sisters, along with Fletcher and O.C., left Christiansburg and moved to New York. During Virginia's second court hearing in December, Police Chief James Bell testified that none of the dozens of handwriting samples from O.C. matched the suicide note, which suggests that someone else had written it.
And there's a lot of documents poor old O.C. signed.
Yeah. After hearing testimonies, the judge denied bail for Virginia for two main reasons. He said her failure to check on O.C. for nearly 24 hours after death was one, and the other was that the evidence indicating the suicide note's signature was written with a different pen and possibly had been written at an earlier time, which raised further suspicion. With Virginia in jail and Mary under surveillance, the police increased their efforts to locate the missing third sister, Caroline Martin. There were rumors going around that Caroline had been seen in Roanoke and Christiansburg at that recent time. One rumor even placed her in the Montgomery College building under the protection of the caretaker. That turned out to be false because they went to investigate there, and the caretaker was pretty pissed. He hadn't been receiving payments in months, and he really just wanted to hand over the school keys to the authorities.
Okay.
So she wasn't there, and he was mad because he wasn't getting paid. Who can blame him?
He's just been stuck there, penniless in a school.
Yeah. In addition to the rumors about Caroline's whereabouts, an assistant principal from the school where Caroline previously worked shared another peculiar story. She claimed that Caroline had asked her for a loan, and when she refused, Caroline allegedly attempted to hypnotize her by staring intensely into her eyes and repeating, "You'll loan me that money." And apparently she just kept repeating this.
She's got a strong will, that one does.
The assistant principal stated that this attempt of whatever she was trying to do failed, and Caroline eventually stopped asking. However, the assistant principal soon found herself being harassed by tradespeople seeking payment for debts owed by Caroline.
Why?
At her home. So apparently Caroline was so angry about the refusal of this loan, she directed the creditors that were after her to the assistant principal's home to bother her for the debt.
She's done the worst thing you can do to a person.
I'd be pissed. Me and Caroline be fighting. The police investigation also uncovered information about Caroline Martin's son, Hugh. At this time, until then, people didn't realize she had a son. Witnesses reported that Hugh appeared to be neglected and mistreated by Caroline. He attended a school where she taught and was reportedly given an inadequate amount of food, and that he only received because of the other teachers giving him food, just little snack food that other teachers would give him, while his mother chowed down on proper hot lunches.
What is up with the family starving everybody?
Well, at times it seems like they starve themselves as well, so I don't know.
Huh.
Sometimes they're eating good while the rest of the family's starving, and sometimes people say that they too were without food.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're chaos is what it is. A bunch of chaos. Strange chaos. In 1888, it was believed that Hugh came down with meningitis and he died.
Natural causes. How bizarre.
Former students and teachers did inform the police of a different story regarding Hugh's death. They told that he had suffered a fatal fall down a flight of stairs. However, there was a death certificate that indicated that Hugh died at age 7 due to spinal meningitis, convulsions, and exhaustion.
Well, at least we know the meningitis got him. I don't know if that's the exhaustion, though. I don't know.
Yeah, the exhaustion. Probably because he's hungry.
Yeah.
Was hungry. The police uncovered additional family tragedies that were linked to the sisters, including the death of Hugh's father, Robert Maxwell Martin. After the Civil War, Colonel Robert Martin married Caroline Wardlaw. Robert soon discovered his wife's interest in business, but that her projects were usually unsuccessful.
Oh, great.
Which began to cause financial difficulties. Their mansion, which was called the Wilder Park Mansion, burned down one night mysteriously.
Was there an insurance claim on it?
It was discovered later that the mansion was insured for $22,000.
I don't know what it was cost to build one, so I don't know if they earned money or lost money.
If you remember the early 1900s when I searched OC's life insurance, which I believe also was $22,000.
They like those 20s.
Yes. It was, I want to say, a little over $170,000.
Yeah.
The cause of the fire remained unknown, and the insurance was fully paid out.
Okay.
So even though it was unknown, they paid up anyway. But Caroline made sure that money was quickly spent.
On failed business ventures, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes. After the fire, they relocated to New York, where life seemed stable for a little bit until the death of their son, Hugh. Robert returned to Louisville alone for business. In 1900, Caroline's letters told him of her struggles in her teaching career, and he seemed to be feeling down as well, so he decided to travel back to New York. They had to move frequently due to money troubles, and then while living in a rundown 2-room house, Robert randomly suffered a stroke and died.
That's not so odd, I guess. Maybe he was heavily drinking.
A neighbor said that he heard a loud crash, followed by groans from the next room. And when he went to investigate, he found Robert Martin on the floor groaning and semi-conscious, while Caroline was lying on the bed, partially clothed, and OC was in the corner weeping.
Okay.
He told police that suddenly Caroline turned to OC and told her, "OC, remember." Who knows what that's about, but okay. But the neighbor said that OC then became silent and cowered in the corner. He also mentioned that the room was in disarray and had soiled clothes and moldy food lying around.
How do these people live like this? I don't get it. What's up with these people?
I don't know. He called a physician, but Robert Martin died hours later.
Oh.
And the death certificate listed the cause of death as hemiplegia, chronic cystitis, and coma. It was later found that Robert Martin's life was insured for $20,000.
That company, they need to learn their lesson.
Despite this sizable insurance payout, Caroline only paid for the first installment of Robert's burial plot in Mount Hope Cemetery.
You think she just pays off all the debts from the previous, spending spree and then she's broke again?
Apparently not, because the creditors just keep
showing up.
Robert's body had to be exhumed because she didn't keep paying for his plot.
Oh, goodness.
And he was relocated to a Confederate burial ground, and the expenses were covered by a group of Southern War veterans. By this point, it was clear to the authorities that Caroline Martin, OC's own mother, was the controlling force within the family. Don't trust her with your money or your life.
Don't trust yourself in the same room with her for very long.
Yes, just stay far away from Caroline. The other sisters don't seem to be that bad
on their own.
Either, because the schools were doing okay until Caroline showed up. Despite the extensive search and the widespread attention in the media, Caroline continued to evade authorities. They couldn't find her. But her peculiar behavior soon attracted attention, and her luck ran out on December 14th. At Manhattan Bayard Hotel, she booked room 855 under a false name and immediately raised suspicion.
They just can't help themselves.
Yeah. She refused to allow anyone in the room even to clean it, which I don't like for them to come in and clean my room while I'm still there either. Unless I'm on the cruise. Then they can.
Yeah, I don't even know they've been there.
Aside from the room is clean.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it's probably the same in a regular hotel, but I don't know.
I'm never in a regular hotel long enough for that to be a thing.
She also would order all the available newspapers and would repeatedly send the bellboy out for the latest editions. She also insisted that he would mail her bulky letters, which apparently was a lot of them, outside of the hotel. She made it very clear to him he was never to mail them from the hotel. So the hotel manager, who likely was aware of this ongoing case, contacted the police. That's what you get for being a complicated Karen that asked for too much.
Maybe she didn't even tip either. If that's the case, I can't blame them.
New York detectives arrived and, based on the information provided, believed the woman was Caroline Martin. They notified East Orange, and Detectives O'Neill and Riker traveled from New Jersey along with them.
You know, O'Neill is a lead character in Stargate SG-1, and Riker is a pretty prominent character in Star Trek, The Next Generation.
No, I did not know that.
So I hear O'Neill and Riker, I'm like, what are these two doing together?
No, I did not know that. That's interesting, though.
Yeah.
Along with them came the reporters, because
of course
they have to get them a piece of this. Although they wanted Caroline as just a material witness in New Jersey, they couldn't extradite her. There was no evidence proving she had been in New Jersey, and there was no charges against her in New York. O'Neill knocked on the door, requesting to speak with her. She declined by stating she was unable to receive visitors. She said she was not appropriately dressed.
Well, get dressed?
Yeah. And then she questioned how he knew her true identity despite her using a false name. I used a fake name. How do you know it's me? The reporters remained in the lobby, and the police instructed the manager to inform them that Caroline had exited the building through the back entrance because they didn't want them getting in the way. And then they persuaded Caroline to relocate to a room on the 7th floor away from the reporters' knowledge. However, the reporters investigated the back entrance, and they realized that an elderly woman was not likely to have been able to scale the 7-foot fence to escape.
Oh, no. That would have been funny to see.
In their black, veiled, long dresses. I bet she could have done it.
They surprise you at every turn.
So the reporters decided to use the fire escape.
Of course.
To reach the 8th floor without the manager knowing. They discovered that room 855's window was open and the occupant was gone.
We've been bamboozled.
No, one reporter did find a black tin box that had been left behind. So they opened it and discovered numerous newspaper clippings about O.C.'s murder. They found hotel receipts revealing that Caroline Martin's recent stays under various names, including Maybrick.
Where have I heard that name?
I think there was something in a newspaper clipping that they found later on that was a woman that murdered maybe her husband or something.
Oh.
And she used that woman's name.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the name, but I'm assuming considering it was. But I don't know that case.
Yeah, I don't either.
One particular receipt caught their eye because it showed she had checked into the Martha Washington Hotel on November 29th, the day O.C.'s death was reported. This is obviously not the Martha Washington Inn here in our town.
Okay, I was going to say.
Obviously, they're not in Virginia. It's located at 23rd Street and Lexington. Beneath the other documents in the box, the reporters found something even more suspicious. They found 3 suicide notes written in the same handwriting.
Why does she keep these things?
And the first one began almost exactly as the one discovered beside O.C.'s body in the East Orange house.
Lady, you need to throw away these things.
Mm-hmm. The lowercase r and the capital D were nearly identical to the original suicide note. The shading, punctuation, and the ink color appeared to match. Reporters hurried to inform the newsrooms, and detectives took control of the newfound evidence. Upon examination, they alerted Prosecutor Wilbur Mott in East Orange, who immediately issued an arrest warrant for the third sister in black, O.C. Sneed's mother, Caroline Martin.
It's about time that one got caught.
It is. Whew, goodness. And that is where we're going to stop part 3.
I like these. I don't like this one as much as I like Virginia, though.
I know. I liked Virginia better.
Virginia seemed a little bit more wise.
This one's kind of just too bitchy.
Yeah.
And, murdery and financially
Unsound.
poor decision.
Yeah, she makes some bad decisions.
With everybody else's money.
And then murders them.
And then murders them, yes, to get more money. What do you think so far?
I like it. Can't believe I've never heard of it. It sounds like something you'd hear about on any true crime show. I need to look more into these crazy women. I'm going to look pictures up. Do they have photos of these women?
I don't know.
We need to look
I think there is one of OC, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know if they have any of them. If they do, they're probably in Vales.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't actually look. I figured early 1900s would probably be difficult.
Yeah. No, I'll look into it.
Yeah, that would be great if you do. I also have an Instagram that I've been playing around with for horrific history and hauntings. I guess I'll try to add some clips there and, like I said, just playing around with it.
I'll try to add a link to it if you send me a link to the link tree. We have a Facebook group for horrific history and haunting.
In case any listeners wanted to easily communicate with me that way.
Yeah, so if you go to the Facebook group, you'll be able to reach out to all of us from
Yeah.
there. It's all the links will be in the link tree in the description. The first link in the link tree is our website, Gruesome Gaming Group Podcast Network. We have all 3 of our podcasts there, and you can subscribe or just Google them or whatever. But then the social links are all around there too. So just click on whichever social network you use and you can reach out, say hi, follow us. The Facebook group, we're trying to get more people in. We have a couple of people hopped in. That's nice. Other than that, our other 2 podcasts, we have Leveling Duo. It's a podcast where me and my friend Dakota or me and Beth talk about video games we've enjoyed. Usually they're newer games, so it don't come out so often. We sometimes pop one in there. We might do a Fallout one for Beth here soon. And also, we have Brother Knows Quest. It's a podcast where me and Beth talk about tabletop role-playing games. A different one each week. At least we try to. But we're on hiatus until the 1st, unless Beth comes up with another idea, because we're trying to rework how it's done. And below all that is a link if you want to send in a donation or a tip to help us keep the podcast hosted. We appreciate it. It comes in handy. And other than that, all I got to say is if you want to leave a review, Pocket Cast now allows you to leave starred reviews. Apple Podcasts, all of them let you leave reviews. If you want to listen to us on YouTube, you can go there and find us and subscribe and follow. Any videos we end up posting of anything later will pop up in there.
I don't know how this one's going to work out. I created a Lemon 8 account as well. I'm still playing around with it to try to figure it out. It seems to mostly be things I'm not interested in, like fashion, but it's kind of like Pinterest and TikTok together.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm still playing around with it. At the moment, it seems to be mostly just aesthetic clothes, fashion, makeup, pretty decorations.
That might be why I didn't keep it, because I believe now that you mentioned it, I created one too.
Yeah, but if you think about it, TikTok used to be nothing but teenagers dancing around.
Yeah.
And look how it changed.
I
So I'm hoping that maybe it'll change. If, like I said, I'm just playing around with it, so I don't know if that one will stay.
I'm a Blue Sky Threads kind of person. So that's where you'll find me at with the links. If she gets any of these accounts to take off, I will put them in the link. I'll probably try to get the Instagram and put it in the link tree as well. But as it is, the Facebook group's in there. So that'll be a good way to reach out. I guess that's it.
If you liked this episode, don't forget to come back next Wednesday. If you are confused, maybe you should go back and listen to the other 2 parts.
Yeah. This will be part 3.
I should have mentioned that from the beginning, but I said 3rd part. Okay. Hopefully there's enough common sense to be like, maybe I should listen to the others.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening. I've been Ramey.
And I'm Beth.
This has been HH&H. Bye-bye.